Healing Light takes you on a journey where you'll explore the nuances of energy. You'll visit the angelic realms and study the ancient wisdom and teachings of spirituality. We want you to reach within and discover the magnificent being that you came here to be. We help shine God's divine healing light by bringing love, light, and blessings into your world. And now, here is the host of Healing Light, Teri Van Horn.
And I want to say, first of all, thanks so much for being with us and for taking time out of your day to listen in. Secondly, I want to apologize for my throat and my voice. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later, but it's a little scratchy, a little in and out, but I'm not letting that win. And so we're going to keep going because what I have to share with you today has actually a lot to do with this. So we're going to get to that. But I want to let you know that if you are interested in finding out more about me or some of the things that I do and some of the services that I provide for people, you can find them on my Facebook page, and that's healinglightonline.org. My website, which is healinglightonline.com. So either way, you can find out more about me, my books, my services that I provide. I am stepping outside of my comfort zone now, and I am giving a lot of readings by phone or Skype. This is something that, I give readings, but usually I record them because I've just been more comfortable with that. But now I actually am doing them live conversations. And so I have those available now pretty much 6 days a week. So if you're interested in that, you can get on my Facebook page that will mention specials and special pricing, or you can always find it on the website, and that's healinglightonline.com. Now, when I'm thinking about different things that I want to talk about, I've gone through lots of the basics and, the different aspects of spirituality. But this week and next week, we're going to talk about some stuff that's a little bit outside of the norm. Some things that even I personally, at times, have felt were a little bit on the bizarre side. But it all fits together. And that's what we have to do, is have an open mind about it all. Now, today, we're going to talk about walk-ins. Now, walk-ins are something that actually we've known about them for a while. But I decided to go to the ultimate source of all information, which is Wikipedia, of course. And I love their definition of it. According to Wikipedia, a walk-in is a new age concept of a person whose original soul has departed his or her body and has been replaced with a new soul, either temporarily or permanently. Believers maintain that it is possible for the original soul of a human to leave a person's body and for another soul to walk in. Souls are said to walk in usually during an accident or a trauma, and the individual either regains consciousness as a walk-in without memory of the past, depending on the severity of the experience, or they may not even lose consciousness, but feel they have experienced death and rebirth in one lifetime. Individuals who feel they are walk-ins might need assistance to relearn walking, reading, writing, and basic daily tasks. This is supposed to give the new soul a chance to develop and integrate through the trauma, and some believers speculate that the original soul leaves when it has fulfilled what it came here to do, and the same body is used again for another soul to fulfill their purpose on earth. Now, that's the Wikipedia version. And I'll be honest, the first time that I heard about or learned anything about walk-ins was during my initial spirituality search. There was a book by the name of Strangers Among Us, written by Ruth Montgomery. Ruth wrote this in 1982. You want to talk about brave? She started talking about walk-ins in 1982, and I got her book shortly after that. So that's whenever I was learning. So basically, I went from not knowing a lot to all of a sudden learning a little bit, teeny tiny bit about spirituality. Of course, you had to read, the basics like Chariots of the Gods. And then I went to Strangers Among Us. So that was like a way big, huge crash course for someone who was about maybe 19, 20 years old. But Ruth's book starts out, I just got an old copy of it. And because who knows where mine is, since that time. It was a long time ago. But the first thing that she talks about is that Benjamin Franklin was a walk-in. And that when he came in, being an advanced soul, he brought with him an amazing sense of awareness. Now, we know that Benjamin Franklin had his hands in everything. He did all sorts of amazing things. He was like almost the American Da Vinci. And so you have to wonder about some of that. But in 1982, I've got to tell you that Ruth Montgomery was one brave woman writing a book about that sort of thing, because it just definitely was not talked about during that time. And when I read her book, I thought, okay, I'm learning. I'm trying to learn as much as possible. But at the same time, my opinion was, oh my God, where is she coming up with this? You mean you die, your soul leaves, and then another one just like pops in? That's kind of like in a TV series, one actor isn't performing well or has some kind of major scandal going on, so they just switch them out, pretending that nothing ever happened and like we're not supposed to notice. I'm aging myself, but they did that in the show called Bewitched. They switch out the Darrens. Never made any mention of the fact that now Darren looks totally different, completely different person. And it came kind of like a standard bearer for TV shows that did that sort of thing. But that's basically the concept of a walk-in. Now, as I said, my initial learning about this, it was really messing with me. And I couldn't buy into it. But over the years, I have read and learned and seen a lot of stuff. And I've talked to some amazing people who have also experienced a lot of stuff. I have one friend who tells me consistently about his friend who actually hangs out with, Sasquatch? The big, huge, giant ape man thing. And that his friend actually knows and interacts with them. So, and that they travel back and forth between portals. So if I can accept that now as something normal, then I guess the concept of walk-ins are not that crazy. So I wanted to share some of my information, some of my research, and some of my experiences with you about walk-ins. Because, there's more to this than what you might think. It's not complete insanity. And, we have to be open to some of these concepts because there's just a lot out there that we don't really know about. Now, I've had the opportunity to not only speak with, but to read some books by a woman named Yvonne Perry. She's a walk-in. She wrote her book in 2013. And she's got some very interesting information and concepts about this. Because, before we always thought, well, okay, as a soul, we came here, we had our experiences, we're finished with our lessons, we die, we move on. But she explains it in a way that I really got it and I really resonated with it. And what she tells us is that, basically that whole Wikipedia explanation was, one soul decides to leave, another one jumps in, usually during trauma or something major happening. And she says that when this happens, it's the responsibility of the walk-in soul to resolve and transmute the outstanding issues of the walk-out soul before the new soul's mission can begin in full. So basically, the old soul bails out, this new soul comes in, and it's got to pick up where the other one left off before it can start its new, powerful, higher level mission and job. That's quite a task. And imagine if a soul really actually volunteered to do this. It's helping that person move to a much higher level, just like it was with Benjamin Franklin. And by the way, the info on Franklin actually came from himself. He realized what had happened and that he had switched out. Now, as I said, I first kind of rejected the whole idea of walk-ins because I thought it was bizarre. But when we get back from our break, we're going to talk about a little bit more about what a walk-in is, what they do, and how that fits into the entire soul journey. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The name is Bond. James Bond.
No, the name is Joe. The Joe Show. And we are returning back for our 9th season here on OMTimes Radio. So tune in every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on OMTimes.com/mobile. You can take us wherever you go. Yeah!
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
And you're listening to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn. Today we're talking about walk-ins. And what a completely bizarre concept that is. Now, I mentioned a lady by the name of Yvonne Perry, and she wrote a really interesting book called Walk-ins Among Us. And I wanted to share some of her insights with you. And then we're going to get to some of my own personal insights about this. One of the things that she tells us is that a walk-in soul comes from a realm of instant manifestation. So it doesn't have the chaos, the limiting belief systems, and the domestication that the previous soul had. And so, think about it. It's like we grow up with this whole, childhood, teenage, then adulthood. We have a set of perceptions. We have limitations. We have all these thoughts and feelings and emotions, and that carries us on throughout our life. But if something happens and our soul chooses to leave, and our souls do have many different exit points, by the way, they can leave a lot of different times, then another one comes in and it doesn't have all those preconceived notions. It's kind of starting clean. So it doesn't have to be as weighed down as the original soul was. So that's kind of, an interesting concept. Now, she also quotes a gentleman by the name of Kenji Kamara. And in his podcast back in 2012, he said that suffering is really not needed. When we remember our perfect and our whole state of being and operate on that mindset, we're able to raise our vibration and to begin to influence others in a very positive way. We may be able to lay hands on them. They're cleared of limiting beliefs, and they are able to resonate with their divine truth and raise their own vibration. That is the side effect of someone who's working with a walk-in. That walk-in is not limited. They choose to be here, and they've chosen to be here without all the garbage that our soul has to put up with while we're being raised and growing up. A walk-in is a soul that came into an adult body rather than choosing to come into the body of an infant. Now, the natal soul is what we call the soul that you're born with. And, what happens is if it's completed its mission, if it has chosen to leave at this particular time, it can agree to leave, and the other soul agrees to come in. Obviously, these two chat about it before the entire body is born and everything else. Now, this is not like being possessed by an evil spirit. It's not being possessed or overcome by your Aunt Harriet who died, 25 years ago. This is an exchange of souls that's done with permission, with agreement. There's no hostile takeovers. When you're possessed by negative energy, that's a hostile takeover. Nobody agreed to anything. That energy just came in and said, "Oh, I like you, I'm taking it." But a walk-in is not like that. We agreed to do this. So just like two actors agreed to one ending his career with a show, the other one starting, that's the way the whole soul exchange is with the walk-ins. Now, what happens is when that walk-in comes in, it raises your vibrational frequency much higher. It helps you so that you can learn and do more. And it really helps you along the path of ascension. Now, once people understand a little bit more about walk-in experiences, then they're able to overcome the confusion when an exchange occurs. Because it's not only the person who had the soul exchange that's going to notice the changes, but other people are too, because you're not going to be the same person. So there are usually a lot of changes in that person. What happens is you've got your cellular energy and your cellular memory of one person. And then all of that's pulled away. And then you have all this new energy. It may be increased intuitive abilities, which most of them are. It can be, just an advancement, much, much higher vibrational frequencies. There are going to be a lot of things that are very different, but very positive about the experience. Now, Yvonne's talking about what it's like, for a walk-in initially. And she says at first that they might feel differently about themselves and friends and family members. You may not particularly like the people that the previous soul did. You can change your job. You can change where you live. You can change the way you dress. I mean, everything can be changed. In one existence, you really loved having your hair, like maybe a light brown or something. But once that walk-in came in, fluorescent pink's the only way to go. There are changes because it is two different souls, two different beings completely. And the person who's actually going through this process may not always understand exactly what's going on. But we need to understand and accept the fact that these walk-ins are really spiritual messengers. And they come in from behind the veil at, opportune times, whether there was a crisis or something traumatic that happened. And they came in to serve humanity. Now sometimes that original soul can hang around a little bit. The two can be together in the body. Or the walk-in comes in, takes over the body, and then the natal soul stays in the aura. Sometimes that helps with the transition, and sometimes it really messes it up because now you've got two different souls trying to do everything together. But it's important to remember that these are mutually agreed on events. Okay? So you agreed to do this. You agreed to allow this other soul and this other energy to come in to bring a higher vibration to you and to the planet. So it's a big deal. And the walk-ins help the planet so that it can really ascend to the next layer, to the higher states of consciousness, which is what we want to begin with. Now, back in the early 80s, when Ruth Montgomery wrote this book, yes, there were walk-ins, but now there are a whole lot more. And they're becoming much more aware of what's going on. They're more aware that, oh my God, this just happened to me. And they might even remember different aspects of the transition or, what happened to make it, to cause it to happen. Now, as humanity reaches different levels, then we have to have a push. That's where we got the indigos and the crystal children, and now we have the rainbows. Well, also we get the walk-ins who come in, as an older being, and they help lift us up as well. They're the ones that we actually refer to as the way showers because they don't have those preconceived limitations. They don't have those things holding them back. And they can get out there and say, hey, guys, this is where we need to go. This is what we need to do. This is how we move forward. Now, the new soul usually has to help complete the old one's mission. That's part of the deal. So it's not like we have a complete cutoff. The other one does have to help with the previous soul's mission and what goes on with the previous one. So all of the commitments, the vows, the promises, everything that previous soul had, they still hold with the new one. So don't think that the karma just all of a sudden immediately gets erased and you don't have all this other stuff, or now all of a sudden, you were with a soulmate and you had a soul exchange and now it's like you don't even know who that person is. It's not like that. It is carried over. There's going to be a lot of compatibility because they've agreed to do this. There's also an adjustment period. Some may do this in the blink of an eye, but most have a little bit of a change. They have to adjust, try it out, kind of like checking out that new car, so that they can acclimate, because it really messes with that body to have the change and to have those vibrations all of a sudden go from like 3 to a 10. That's a big difference. So we have to have a little bit of time to acclimate. That's the reason why that natal soul will stay close by, stay in that auric field a little bit. Now, sometimes they actually even like weave themselves together, which is really kind of a beautiful thing, and it's called a soul braid, where the two of them work together and they integrate, and then they're able to make significant changes. Still, they're going to feel some differences, some changes, physically, emotionally, possibly even spiritually. Now, whenever there's a soul braid, then somebody can be really intense or focused on accomplishing their divine purpose. Like, I got to get it done right now. But in order to help facilitate that, then they may start picking up different abilities, the clairs, healing abilities, be really highly intuitive. There are a lot of gifts that they can pick up during this process. Now, when we get back, we're going to talk about a little bit more about what happens when you do this walk-in or this soul exchange, so you'll understand a little bit more and maybe even discover if you are a walk-in.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
A little bit about walk-ins and what happens from an experience standpoint with a walk-in. But let's take it down even a little bit more detailed and personal. And Yvonne has a great list of indications that a walk-in has occurred. So I want to go through some of these, and we're going to expand on them a little bit and talk about this to see really how off the charts insane this possibly is. First of all, there can be an abrupt change in personality that may have resulted from a dissociative event, a near-death experience, suicide attempt, or other perilous marker. Now, as I said before, we all have exit points in our lives. When you go to a really good astrologer, they can go through and tell you what your exit points are or what they have been. If you think about it, you can probably figure it out yourself. For me, I nearly drowned at about 8 or 9 years old. I got caught in rapids and got dumped out of the inner tube and was floating down the river. That was an exit point. I could have drowned, but I didn't. I started struggling, and then other kids saw me and they pulled me in. I had another time where a category or a class 4 tornado came over the area where I lived. I was trapped outside. I could have very easily been swept up by this massive tornado. You know, I could have moved by inches and it would have probably either picked me up or slammed something into me. But it didn't. Still, not an exit point. It was an opportunity to, but it was an opportunity that I didn't take. You know, another time, very, very nasty car wreck. I still don't know how I walked out of it over 20 years ago, but I did. There's no rhyme or reason why I should have survived that car wreck, except that I had more stuff to do. Things in the personal life weren't perfect, so it was an opportunity to leave if I chose to do that. So we have exit points kind of built in. We can choose to take them if we want to. That's also kind of the explanation, you know, when a soul leaves early, when someone dies young. They chose to take one of those exit points and leave earlier. So it's all part of the plan. Now, another indication is feeling like the body's been short-circuited or that your nerves have been fried. Oh my gosh. I mean, have you ever felt like that? That's kind of like going from 110 to 220 electricity. It's a big shock because that energy, those vibrations and frequencies are so much higher. It's not a bad thing. It's just takes some adjustment. Brain fog or loss of memory. That's a good one. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, you don't always remember a whole lot about certain aspects of your life, but a good indicator is if you think about your childhood, can you remember much of it? Or is it all just kind of fuzzy? Do you have to have pictures to remember different aspects of your childhood? That's also an indication that maybe you have experienced a walk-in. Now, here's a big one that a whole lot of people I know fit in this category. We feel like we don't belong here on earth. And, you know, a lot of us are born having that feeling and that sensation that we, you know, it's like, this is not home. As a kid, I grew up saying to myself, because I never said it out loud, was that I wanted to go home. This wasn't home. This was not where I belonged. I wanted to go home, and then I would find myself, you know, staring at the stars at night. Now, this is from like a little early age. I knew I didn't belong here. But if you've had a soul exchange or a walk-in experience, then you might be feeling that even more, you know, or it's like all of a sudden, I got good at this, I'm acclimated to it, I've accepted being here on earth, and now all of a sudden, I'm back to that, I don't want to be here, this isn't home, I'm a foreigner. So you have to look at that as well. A lot of people who have experienced walk-ins or soul exchanges now have chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, something along that line. That's because the body has to get used to the new energy. And, it's hard on the body, I mean, that's kind of it. Obviously, it wouldn't happen if you couldn't handle it, but it's still kind of hard sometimes. A lot of people experience that. Spiritual gifts suddenly open up. Like all of a sudden you wake up one day and oh my God, you are like so psychic. You feel things. You are just like the super empath. Or your healing ability just gets amplified. It's like now you can just go and do like healing sessions in a fraction of the time for people because it just happens that way. The energy that you're putting out is so much higher. Now, we've got a list also of things to think about if you think you might be a walk-in. It's like when you first had a really spiritually transformational experience, did you feel emotional or physical changes? Did you notice anything about yourself? What was different about your thinking patterns? Were there thoughts or phrases that needed to be repeated or just keep going on? Did your body feel new? Does it feel like an outfit you just put on or a coat? I remember feeling times where I just wanted to take my body off. Now, mostly that was because of pain resulting from that nasty car wreck. But, it just felt like my soul wanted to be free so bad. It was just like, let's take this outfit off. I think I was going through buyer's remorse. I had chosen to stay, and I was thinking, oh, I so made a mistake here. And that's when I wanted to throw off the body. Okay, think about, this is a big one. What are the circumstances of your life just before the event where you think you might have had a walk-in or soul exchange experience? Things kind of not great, a little rocky, kind of unpleasant, a lot of challenges. It's also a really good indicator. Now, we talked about forgetting about your childhood or a huge lapse of memory. Some is okay. We don't expect anybody to remember every aspect of their childhood. But it's big gaps in time. That is where the difference is. Okay, were there significant life alterations? Did you have career changes or like this miraculous, spontaneous healing? Or was your relationship like okay and all of a sudden you just decided, I'm out of here, I'm just done? Or you changed different aspects of yourself? Like we talked about, you had nice, light brown hair, but now all of a sudden it has to be fluorescent pink or else you just can't live with it being brown anymore. Did you have a shift of beliefs and values after this time period? Now, believe it or not, people can have more than one walk-in experience. You can have a couple of them or even more. So you have to think about, did this happen to me before? Or did this happen, recently or, whenever? Now, sometimes if you have this experience, there's also going to be a change in some of your spirit guides because now you're at a higher level. So you need some that can help you and keep up with that. Not that the old ones were bad. We're just saying we're upgrading all the way around. And then think about what has been the most challenging aspect about integrating these two souls. Now, for those who still feel like it's the totally most bizarre thing in the world, I did too. I really did. But what happened is that last February, a year ago, and I've talked about this on my Facebook page, I had an experience where I had a just steroid injections in my back. Very standard procedure with a doctor that I had been working with for 20 years. And what happened was he did the injections. Everything was perfect. They rolled me over. And then I started choking. Now, the choking could have been one of two things. I mean, we pretty much isolated what it was. It was probably reflux. But what happened was I started choking and gagging so much that my entire esophagus and my vocal cords, everything just closed up. Everything shut down. So I was not able to get any oxygen. Now, we know what happens when you can't get oxygen for any period of time and you're still under anesthesia. You're in trouble. Fortunately, I was in a fully functioning operating room with a full team. And I mean, we haven't discussed it, but I know they hit me pretty hard with the oxygen and was like forcing it into me and forcing everything to open up. I don't know what else they did. We never even talked about it. But I know what I experienced during that procedure. Usually when you're knocked out with anesthesia, there are no dreams, there are no experiences, there's nothing. It's just you went to sleep in one spot and you woke up in another spot. But I did have experiences. I did have the whole light thing. I was with angels and guides. And there was one where it was like it was time to go, but I had to talk to this one. And you know how when you're a kid and mom keeps waking you up for school and you're like, oh, just 5 more minutes, mom, just 5 more minutes. I swear I'll get up in 5 more minutes. Well, I had a very nagging, persistent nurse doing her best to wake me up. And I kept saying 5 more minutes. I needed to get this additional information. So when we get back, we're going to talk about some of that information that I got later on and what I'm doing about it. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
And you're listening to Teri Van Horn, and today we're talking about walk-ins. Now, I talked about the experience whenever I had my medical procedure, and all of a sudden, I was choking and gagging and losing oxygen, and things weren't going real well for me at the moment. But I had a great surgical team, and they basically saved me. I didn't know really anything that happened other than the fact that I knew that I was on the other side with one of my favorite guides, and I kept saying, just 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. And then I had that nurse who was semi-hysterical waking me up. So later on, Doc walked in and he said, "So, tried to kill yourself today on my watch." And I was like, not really, but, sorry. My throat felt like it had been through a shredder about 1,000 times over. I've been able to talk for a while. I mean, like, while as in weeks. And, I was really just kind of like in a daze. There's no other way to explain it. I was trying to understand what on earth was going on and what had happened. This was something simple. I've done it a couple of times in the past already with excellent results. So why this? So I had a total spiritual and emotional disconnect after this happened. And I was walking around, like, honestly, I was just saying, what the hell just happened? This went on for months. Had a couple of readings, talked to a wonderful dear friend who said, "Honey, it's like you hit the reset button on your computer and you got to reset." And I was like, okay. Well, a little bit later, things just started changing. I mean, stuff that I loved, I no longer was that crazy about. Things that were important to me, now not so much. Even started changing to an extent the way I dress. Things just started shifting. Wasn't making a lot of sense. I ended up, by chance, which we know was not an accident, found a young man who, and just contacted him out of the blue, and it's like, "I need a reading from you." And we did it. And I said, the purpose of this reading is I have to find out what happened. What was the point and the purpose? Because I'm still constantly confused about everything that went on. My fibro, I had been diagnosed with it before, but it was all in, just like overload. Everything was just different and changing, and my motivation was different. My focus was different. And he says, "Well, you had a walk-in. You had a soul exchange during that time, and that's why everything is so different for you." And I was pretty much speechless. I was like, "What?" Now, I knew what they were, but, that one was a little too far off the charts for me. That one was a little too bizarre. And we talked more about it. And he said, "Well, you're still having throat problems." I was like, "Hey, yeah." I basically kind of relived that experience almost every night now. Being dead sleep, all of a sudden, wake up, choking, gagging, can't breathe. Doesn't matter what I take, no matter what I do, no matter what I eat. Obviously, if this is happening almost every night, I'm doing a lot of experimenting. But very few things make any impact on it. So he said, part of what's going on with you is that you're getting your light language. And I was like, "I don't do that." He said, "Yes, you are. You're going to be doing it probably in a matter of days." And he did do an activation to help with it. I've done activations and things with other people before. Nothing happened. But 3 days later, I was doing a healing session for somebody, and all of a sudden, light language came out. And I was in shock. I was like, "Oh my God, now what?" But it was also like I knew what I was saying. So, another totally bizarre experience. So, when you think about these things and when you learn about them, don't think that it can't happen to me, because all indications are, and I have done subsequent readings with other people, not telling them this information, because I didn't discuss this initially whenever I started finding out. I started studying and learning more and having additional readings to see what other people picked up. And they were like, yes. Now, the majority of the changes have happened probably in the last 4 to 6 months. So I was going through my acclimation period where things were changing a little bit. And now I'm full blown into the changing. What has it done for me? Well, now I do light language. I'm even more of an empath than I have been before. I'm picking up messages and information freer and clearer. Not a lot of impact on meditation. I'm still not very good at it, to be honest. But there have been changes. There are changes physically. There are changes emotionally. There's even a different relationship with my dog. And my dog and I, we're tight. But now it's a little bit different. And he looks at me like, who are you? So these things change. And they shift our energy. And they shift our ability to do things. You know, I was always nervous and had, honestly, I get messages. I get wonderful and beautiful messages. And whenever I'm doing a reading with somebody, I just blurt out whatever it is that comes out. But I was always still kind of insecure with that. So I would do my readings by a recording because, I don't know, I guess it was performance anxiety or something. I would just kind of freeze up sometimes and lock it up. Now I'm doing the readings, talking to people all the time, and I'm loving it. Even though my voice is like kind of going in and out. The amazing thing is I can start the call with that person with a very scratchy, nasty, unpleasant, hurting throat. But by the time I'm finished with the reading, my throat actually feels better and my voice sounds stronger. So there's a lot to be said for that right there. Now, I may still have some issues that have to be corrected on the throat. And we're going to do some testing just to make sure there's no permanent damage. But it's amazing how things have changed. It's been 14 months since that initial time. But I would say there's probably not anything that hasn't been touched by this. Nothing at all. You know, when you're working with spirit, you have to be open. And one of the things that I have been doing for over a year, since before this happened, was that I told God and Spirit that I am ready to do whatever I need to do. I'm willing to make the changes, the sacrifices, whatever Spirit wants me to do, wherever it leads me, I will go without question. So look what happened. And, it's okay because I made those statements. I made those commitments because I really believed in it. That's exactly how I felt. I have said it a couple of times this time around. But it's been very interesting. No, I don't think I'm an alien. I don't think I'm anything different. But I am a soul energy that is very similar to the one that I was born with. But it doesn't feel as much of the pain and the trauma that my natal soul felt from growing up with an abusive parent. It's, the experience is still there. Actually, most of my childhood is not. But now I'm remembering a few, not a lot, but a few positive aspects of my childhood and not remembering the negative ones as much. So that means that cards are cut, hallelujah, and positive changes are coming this way. So that's another wonderful benefit about doing this. Now, I am not going to be alone in this. There are going to be a lot of people who have gone through this process. You do not clinically, medically have to die. I did not technically die. I think I gave them one hell of a scare, and I came very close. But I didn't totally die, even though I was on the other side. This has happened to a lot of people. It's going to continue to. It can do, it can startle you, and you can have a change. I believe Yvonne Perry said that she was in the middle of a very rare argument with her husband, fainted, and did the exchange. It can happen a lot of different ways. So you don't have to die. You don't have to go through anything really horrible. But, pay attention. See what happens, and it may help explain some of the confusion that you feel in your own life. Now, next week, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite subjects, and that is what it's like on the other side and how it is for those who have crossed over. So thanks again for being with us. You can always find me at healinglightonline.com or on Facebook, Healing Light. Many, many blessings. Namaste.